Hello and welcome back to the lab. Today on the bench we have something from the personal queue that moved up in priority significantly for a second. So for those that have been following the channel for a while, back in the video catalog you will know that we went through some vehicle shenanigans about last year this time, so everything's going well. But I am in need of the truck for some personal reasons, and this is my dash cam for the larger vehicles. So I need this thing working, and it's got a power problem. Now, we actually have two problems in this, if you can see, which you really can't. See if I can get some light. If you look in the back on those pins, you can see that those pins are at different levels. Now, one of the problems is this is a RJ, it's not an RJ45, it's not an RJ11, it's the one in the middle, but it's a 6-pin RJ11 jack, which is what's in here. And those center two pins are kind of, all the pins are supposed to stick up like this, they're crammed down. The problem with them being crammed down like that is they're the power pins. So this thing is flickering on and off a bunch. So we're going to open this up. You guys are coming along for the ride. And we're going to see what our options are about correcting this permanently. We'll correct it temporarily for now, but we will correct this permanently in the future because I have a sneaking suspicion, now that I see those pins again, this is not going to be a cracked solder joint because those are crammed way down compared to the others. But we are going to try to retouch up the solder joints on that connector, hoping it's a cracked solder joint. I'm also going to... Okay, so we're going to crack this open and see what we can do. I do not know which side of the board the RFE stuff is going to be on. Oh, those are self-tappers into plastic. I'll have to be careful putting those back in. But for the trailer, not a lot of people know this about trailer tires, but trailer tires are speed rated, and they're only good for a certain amount of RPM. The problem is when that RPM gets exceeded, they tend to blow up. Ugh. Well, there's my big bulk capacitor, so that explains that. Nice two giant caps hiding under there, so let's get this top board off. This is going to need way more tear down than I was expecting. Well, if I have to come in here again, that jack might be getting replaced. It's going to have all kinds of stuff for the detectors in here. If you do decide to use one of these units, make sure you check your local listings. There are whoa. Well, there's the RF receiver. I didn't expect that to come out in one piece, but that explains why it popped out. That actually should stay on this board. There's the connector pins. This is some RF shielding, and this is going to be the waveguide, the receiver waveguide for the radar RF. So I need to put this back together like right now. Down there. So yeah, as I was saying, there are varying local laws in your municipality. Sometimes these are illegal devices, or I should say municipalities have determined that they are illegal, and everyone should follow the local laws of their jurisdiction. But I am not a lawyer. I am a repair guy. The GPS speed monitoring on these is very nice. The other thing that's real nice is it takes the GPS speed and overlays it onto the video that's recording, so if anything does happen, there's no question as to how fast I was going, which is good. So there's our waveguide reinstalled. My interest is right here, this connector. also this board. So what do I have to do to get you out of there? Dash cam's going to be here. Power cap's here. SD card slips in here. Front panel connections are here. Oh, these are super caps. 3 volts at 5 farads. Ooh. That explains why this thing stays powered up for so long. All right, I think the next thing we're going to need to do is probably pop out this camera. Oh, no, we don't have to. This front bezel will come apart, which means the camera is now loose, I think. Loose enough to get the board out. So let's see if we can get to the bottom side of this board. That bit's a bit big. That one locks in nicely. Okay, time for the surgery tweezers. Okay, I'm not sure if this is the best way to get in, but it is a way to get in. Is this connector goes to the top side of the board, which is the radar section, plugs in right here. There's a connector that falls in underneath this shielding slash thermal pad, probably shielding, and hooks in right there, which we'll have to reconnect. And then there is a very fat, wide ribbon cable that plugs in right here that you'll want to reconnect. There is enough room once you pull everything up to get it out of there. I left the camera connected for ease of use. Here's our security sticker. Pull this out of here. This is the anti-theft magnetostriction bubble. That can go away so it doesn't short out to the board. All right, let's check out the bottom of this thing. All right, so let's take a look at the bottom of this. We have a whole lot of crusty flux on that power connector. I am starting to wonder if these pins had gotten overheated during the connector attachment, because this would not have gone through either the wave soldering process or the reflow oven. So I am curious, because this is hand done for sure and wasn't cleaned up. These super caps were as well. Hand soldered, so we'll clean up the flux there. And then I'm wondering if the soldering iron was just a bit hot and retempered those pins, because they do not want to stay up like they're supposed to. So let's go ahead and pull this connector off and figure out a plan B. Okay, I'm going to do a little bit of nitrogen soldering because it makes lead-free solder behave a little bit better. So we're going to add a little bit of leaded to the pins, kind of preheat the board. One of those pins looks kind of dry, to be honest. Huh, and it really doesn't want to take solder. Interesting. Yeah, that center pin really doesn't want to take solder at all. That's going to need a lot of heat, so I have a sneaking suspicion our power pins got overheated. Clean this out with the desoldering tool. Oh yeah. Much better. Also, be careful with those cleaning pins. Once you use them, they are rocket hot. I've gotten stripes burned in my fingers from those before. Just checking for pin mobility, and I don't have any there. Big surprise, don't have any there. All right, so it's the 2 pins I need are the holes that are giving me trouble. Awesome. Well, let's see what we can do about that. Which ultimately means we probably, well, I'd be willing to bet we have decent-sized ground planes, even though this board is tiny. This one wants to argue. Holy cow. Had to pull out all the tricks to get this one out of here. So we had to come in from the top, put more solder on it, make it so that everything was working, and then they had to pry the connector out this way, had to vise the board. Man, stuff hasn't wanted to argue like that in a while. All right, if you have really stubborn holes, tungsten carbide board drills, I use these in a Dremel press to actually make PCBs, but you can take them by hand, and if you're steady enough, you can actually just twist them in by hand and clean out the solder holes. You have to be very careful doing this. Tungsten carbide does not like flexing at all. The slightest bit of side loading will snap the cutters, but they're very sharp. They go through solder without much trouble, and we get them popped out. Now, we're at the spot where we have a board that is in need of a plug. We have a plug that's shot. Now the question is, what do we do? Do we get another 6-pin? But what we do need to do is get our polarity right. This is going to be critical. I do not want to reverse polarity this. Now, given what these super caps are, we're going to have a buck converter probably right here. So what we got going on is we have our 14.5 volts coming off the alternator and batteries in the truck coming in here. We also have a contact closure on the outer 2 pins for muting the unit. I don't use that feature at all. But I'm guessing this is a reverse polarity protection diode. Make sure we get it right. But then this is probably going to be a buck converter to cut it down, because you would not want to feed these bulk caps car voltage, because these are only 3 volt. So these are only 3 volt. Come on, focus. These are only 3 volt super caps. So we cannot be feeding, we have to be doing some regulation in here, because you can't take the 14 volts from the car and feed these bulk caps for it. And I know these are what drive the unit, given how long this takes to shut down. Okay, in taking this out to the truck, I was able to confirm 2 things. One, I would have guessed wrong with the polarity, because I would have said this was the positive and that was the ground plane. However, the way this is wired up, this is the ground plane and that is the positive, as confirmed by the meter when I plugged it in. I was also able to confirm that this connector is the power problem with this unit. It was falling in and out while I had everything connected, so it's a good thing we are replacing this. So that is going to be a given. Now, the question is, how do we do that? So I have agonized about this connection for a while, and I'm glad this is my unit. I would not do this for one that I'm sending out. This is for personal use, and I need this as early as tomorrow, so I don't have time to order anything. But I thought about doing this with a 1/4-inch jack, but it was going to be too much hanging off of these thin wires. We have strain relief here, and we have a DC barrel jack right there. So we'll get the top board back on with the gigahertz detecting assembly. I will get my screwdriver. We'll get this all put back together. And then we'll give it a test to see if it lets out the magic smoke. We've either fixed it or permanently fixed it to where it will not work no more. I am hoping we go with step 1, not step 2. Get this front fascia put back on. And that's snapped in where it belongs. Pop the SD card back in. So I wired this up so it's center pin positive. And here it is, a wire lead that we're going to put in the truck as well. We'll do an ohms check to the center barrel. Our marked line should be positive. It is, so we have center pin positive. So with our trusty power supply, we will do the thing. All right, we're just going to double check the polarity of the plug. That is 12 volts, center pin positive. And we're current limited, so we're drawing a little, let's do 500 milliamps. There's our 12 volts. And it looks like we're powering on. Now, the speaker's not going to make any noise because it's sitting over here, but we have good connections. So what I need to do is I need to get this plug in the truck wired up to the truck cable. That's going to be a soldering job real quick, but that's going to be out front. But I like it. It's staying powered on. All right, so we are good there. So as long as I don't get the polarity reverse back in the truck, we'll be good. So the super cap's discharging. If we take a look, if we turn it off, turn the power supply off, it says powering down. And it's still powering down. So that's the super caps falling out. So very cool. All right. So that is nice and successfully fixed and repaired. I'm going to wire loom this, make it look a little nicer. We do have a nice strain relief in there. We'll get the top cover put back on. I need to take the top screws out because they need to go on this side. And that's why they were a bit long. Oops. Thanks for stopping by the lab today and taking a look at this Cobra Road Scout repairing the power problem. Rather simple fix, but this will get it up and running for a while yet to come. And that's a pretty expensive unit, so definitely worth fixing. As with everything, if you like the video, hit the subscribe button. Maybe check out the Patreon page. Patreons usually are running around 3 weeks ahead from the YouTube releases. And hit me up in the comments. I read all the comments on all the videos, and I see everyone in the comments between videos. So, as always, more is on the way, and I will see you guys in the next one.